Hello everyone, what's up? Leviathan News. This is Thursday, March. No, not March. I'm a month behind. April 25th, evening here in Israel, probably around noon in the western side of the globe. And we have another weekly panel. Really excited about this one as well. And I'm joined today by my lovely co-host, Millie, first of all. How are you, sir?
Good, I'm good, sir.
Nice to have you on. And for the first time, we have another ghoul, not Amplice today. Amplice was too busy, but we got quite a reinforcement here, or however you say it in English. We have Colin from Liquidity. What's up, sir?
Hello, sir. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
I'm great. Really, thank you for coming. Really excited about it. And okay, we got a lot of topics we actually want to discuss. And quite a hectic week. I wasn't personally, by the way, following that much because it's Passover here, so I was mostly concentrated about other stuff. But I did see that there was quite a lot of interesting news these days, and we're going to try to cover a lot of them. But we actually want to start with some meme coins. I was told before the talk, when I talked to Millie about the subject, that there's a lot of interesting stuff going on the meme coin side of things.
I wouldn't say interesting. I wouldn't say interesting like that. A lot of degeneracy going on, but
the degeneracy is kind of interesting, man.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it's interesting in a degenerate way. I think realistically there is a huge this shift. I don't know. It kind of feels like we're at the peak of it, this huge this financial nihilism sort of approach to, or some people wouldn't even like to call it that. But what we're seeing is even VCs endorsing meme coins. We're seeing meme chains coming out. It's an interesting sort of time for the for this. There's a lot of meme coin activity on chain, and so it's I don't know. It was a lot of it was focused. It started on Solana, going wild on Solana, but it's sort of everywhere realistically, right? It's the meme coins are what everyone's interested in, and so even on the perp dexes, the meme coins are doing a lot of volume and getting a lot of activity. So it's just interest in just meme coins these days, and I think realistically it's it's more a reflection of who the participants are, rather than what is interesting, I would say, perhaps, right? And I think, I don't know, a lot of people say it's retail, and I think some of it could be retail, but it doesn't really seem like a lot of dense retail activity to me. It seems a lot more like the same rotation of hot ball of money that's been rotating since DeFi summer into the newest, shiniest, dumbest thing that ended up rolling into NFTs or whatever, and it's still the same rehypothecated sort of mixed hot ball of money that's sort of going around. I think that's what's really driving the meme coin movement. But I don't know. It's one thing you can't deny is they benefit a lot from the environment, because I think NFTs are they're just like meme coins, right? Except the problem with NFTs is that they're non-fungible, so they have a liquidity cap. They can't get more liquid than some certain amount. They can't ever get a Binance listing, right? On Binance USDT pair or Binance perps, where all the volume is basically happening. At least at the moment. And it's for that reason, they just have this limited potential. Whereas a meme coin, it's we've seen so many of them now, start from nothing and then go into multi-billion-dollar tokens, and then end up getting a Binance listing and a Coinbase listing and everything. And so that potential just puts meme coins in this really well-situated place. Whereas with DeFi protocols, even there's a lot of complexity. DeFi protocols I think are really interesting right now. I think that's where there's a lot of value right now even. But it's there's a lot of complexity, right? And if you can't navigate well, you it's difficult. Maybe it's not even that much more complex than meme coins, but it's just there's a lot to keep up with, and with these, and just to know what is working and what isn't, and and then there's these other newer tokens with all the new tokens with new charts that all low float, high FDV, sort of basically transfer wealth from the buyers to whoever is has the tokens. They either the airdrop farmers or the liquidity providers or the VCs or the team or whatever. So it's really it's just it's not fertile grounds for like, you know, degens. So realistically, it just puts meme coins in like this well-situated place. Not because meme coins are amazing themselves, they're just benefiting from like this environment, I think. And it's just like, you know, the liquidity keeps driving there for now. And I think it's because there's nothing really crazy new this cycle as opposed to last cycle. Like I think the newest thing is like the fact that we have so many rollups and just so much cheap block space. And like a lot of the derivatives market on chain is like maturing really quickly. And it's like, so we have that versus like what we didn't have, like let's say in 2020. But like we've kind of like progressively had this for like a couple of years now. And for that reason, so it's like it's not that much of like it doesn't gather that much attention. It doesn't like have this huge bang to it. So like you don't really see it, but like there's a lot of like improvements that happened in the past couple of years. And so like realistically, it's just like to keep up with all of it is difficult. And it's sort of because you see it happening slowly over time. It's like a lot of people just become used to it. And so like, you know, I think last cycle what we had was like this new, like we just had like DeFi blow up and just drive anything, and then we had like crazy NFT activity that like sort of topped off, like ended off the bull market. And then what we have this cycle is like it's a lot like slower, different game. But meme coins on the other hand are just like doing retarded volume, like just a crazy amount of activity, like for no reason. Like I don't even know why. Like I don't know why it blew up now of all times, but like it just like it's blown up like never before. So yeah, it's just like I think it's probably the top even, but like you know, it's gone pretty well. Anyway, I ran it for a bit.
I think that's really interesting, and for the record, I refuse to ever call the top of anything. I am a shit trader, and I also never want to be on the record saying top. And
that's wise of you. That's why.
But I mean, yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you said there. Is like this cycle feels really, really different in that, yeah, there's nothing where you can kind of stick your hand out there and say, yeah, this is cool and this is new. Like meme coins have been around for a long time, and you know, Dogecoin is probably like one of the oldest tokens out there. That's like the original meme coin, or I guess Litecoin maybe. But it's, yeah, I don't know. I personally, I played the meme coin game a while ago. I kind of got bored with it. Like it's funny once in a while to do with your friends, and I think it's point and shoot. It's very easy to understand, and you see very quickly if it worked or it didn't. And it's quite social. I've seen a lot of people do it on a very social basis. Like, yeah, my friend got me into this one, it worked, and then we started this little group, and people love doing that type of stuff. And NFTs were great for that. Meme coins are even better, exactly for what you said, because of the liquidity aspect. But personally, I mean, I'm kind of over it. So I think I'm done playing that game. That doesn't mean that, you know, I think it's over. I think the opportunity's gone. It could still go up 1,000 times, whatever. That's great. I'm happy for all the winners, but I'm kind of still digging in to go, you know, what's out there, and maybe it's restaking. Maybe that's where we get into it. I kind of feel like, you know, maybe there's other things out there. Like what is the interesting thing that's coming out the cycle where everybody can go, oh wow, that's cool. We couldn't do that before.
Yeah, I think this cycle is going to be, I say, from meme coins, we're going to go mean reverting, right? So I think the protocols with real revenue will eventually come out, right? Because most people that enter crypto, even during the last cycle, I think treated a lot of these things that were mostly empty promises, if we're honest, right? Like a lot of the things we saw many other cycles were all not around anymore. The only protocols that are around, like Aave or MakerDAO or Curve or Frax, these are all blue chips, and I think they're gonna come back because like it's just working infrastructure. It works. It keeps on producing. Well, it keeps on. It's building on Ethereum. The app layer, I think, is gonna get stronger. That's where eventually the power will lie, and I think the power will get abstracted away from chains a lot, actually, because a lot of these chains and blockchains are all going to be abstracted away. With indeed something like restaking or something like that will make it super easy for you to just be on L1 and just sign intents or sign like zero knowledge proofs or something, and then do your transactions and just keep your assets and just sign signatures, right? Or whatever. It's gonna get really interesting and really weird with all these L2s coming out, and they're all gonna, you know, they all have a lot of capital. They all want to attract users, and I do think we're going to see a DeFi summer 2.0, and it's going to get weirder and more crazy than before. And I think this meme coin mania that we see now is just a bunch of crypto people that are just bored and want to have fun. I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Can we find some stats about it, by the way, like on the flow? Like, for example, how much money was actually traded on meme coins like the past week?
I don't know.
I don't exactly have numbers, but if you go to Dex Screener and if you look at like a lot of the volume on some chains, a lot of the top volume is done by meme coins, right? Outside of like the major soul pairs,
But
like
if you look at a lot of
I've got a number for you. CoinGecko says in the last 24 hours, everything they put in their meme coin category was $6.35 billion in the last 24 hours.
That's the volume traded?
Volume traded, according to CoinGecko.
Man, that's a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah, but like a lot of that is concentrated probably to like the
really
top one. To like
a lot of that's Dogecoin and Sheeb, right? And Pepe.
Yeah, for sure. But guys, these are still meme coins, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's like those new ones on Solana now too. But like if you just go to Dex Screener and if you just look at like what is there on Dex Screener, you'll see like you just go to a chain. You just if you sort by volume, you'll notice like even then like there's a lot of just activity on these meme coins above like all the other like different variety of tokens that are available, except for like a few outliers. But like you just see a lot of meme coin dominant activity. Like if you ignore like let's say like the ETH pairs or like the Sol pairs or like the like the ARB or OP pairs or like whatever, if you ignore the main native token pairs, like outside of those, there's like just a lot of meme coin activity on these chains. So like that's what I think is like it's a lot of it's just on chain, right? And like and a part of it is that a lot of this like the old tokens like DeFi and like legacy tokens or like Alta ones, they all just mainly get most of their volume off chain on they get like most of their volume like through like Binance or Coinbase or whatever. And so that's driven a lot of liquidity there too. And so like these meme coins, a lot of them, some of them are more liquid than like your average DeFi token. And that's a problem, right? Like that sort of, it makes it an issue too. And it's sort of been like this drive towards it because it's sort of been like exasperated by the fact that these DeFi tokens or like these other like alt tokens have sort of like moved to all their liquidity to decentralized exchanges.
But I think at the same time, my counter would be that's actually really, really good. And I think like if you start looking at these alt L1s and L2s, like the ones that have embraced meme coins as like a central theme have done a whole lot better at attracting DeFi and everything else than the ones that kind of like shat on them. Like you look at the ones that were kind of anti meme coins and they're nowhere, like you can't find them. And then you look at things like Solana and Avalanche that are like all about it. And they've done pretty well, like on the underlying.
That's such a good point.
A great stress test. It's all on chain.
Yeah, I think that, by the way, I personally, it's more of an assumption that I have rather than something that I've actually deeply checked. But I don't think that like the vast majority of meme coin activity these past few months is actually like new retail coming in. I think that's actually a very small part of it.
Yeah.
I think it's people taking profit because like prices of like the serious core tokens like went up these past few months so significantly, like with the all market repricing, at least the way I perceive it. And most of that capital that went into meme coins was, in my opinion, already in-house. Like we already had that in crypto. Like the people that I know from the outside, like that are like from real life, that will usually start buying meme coins, they're not here yet. In my opinion, they're not even going to be informed that something's happening until Bitcoin reaches 100K or something.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think realistically, like it seems like it looks like from like an observer who isn't really like actively trading meme coins, it looks like it's just like that same hot ball of money just moving around. And like if we go back even 1 year ago, like or maybe just over a year ago, NFT activity was like still going on. Like there were still new NFTs coming out every day that are like just like doing tons of volume. And and blur farming was going on at this time, and there would be tons of new projects that would come out. Like they wouldn't pump like a whole lot like crazy 100x's, but like there was a bunch of like launches that did really well. And like this was even just last year, right? Like just last year this time, around this time. And so like it's just like been this shift that's happened really recently, but it seems like it's just like same like activity that's just from the participants that were here. At least that's the way I see it. But you know, at the same time, like some of these tokens probably definitely do have retail because like they're already trading on centralized exchanges, and like you can already tell like that you know, they cater to that audience anyway, and so like you can tell there's a lot of retail activity around them. But like most of it, like most of these meme coins on like Base and like Solana, I doubt that's retail. Like it just doesn't seem like it anyway.
I agree. Some of it for sure, but like a lot of it, just like you said, I think it's the same capital going on back and forth, and the capital itself, it's not actually growing. It's just like, okay, this token is speculated by this amount at this point, but like I don't even think that this whole like huge run up in meme coins is mostly from like new capital. I think it's from like people taking profit on tokens, but that's actually kind of natural. And it really does to go back to the point Colin was making. It's kind of if you weren't there to like to play along, you lost a lot of traction and volume on your change probably. Like maybe you didn't care much, but like the fact of the matter is that people want to trade meme coins, no matter how we feel about it.
I think philosophically, though, I'll throw in there personally, and I don't know how you guys feel. I prefer seeing people play with meme coins than going out and mass buying Cardano.
Yeah, fully agree with that.
100%. You know what? 100%. It's liquid. It's happening, and I'm kidding, but I mean, it's all about knowing like what do you assume that's going to happen, and like what do you perceive as a risk. But I agree. Like I'm gonna buy a lot of meme coins before I'm gonna buy Cardano. All respect.
The Alta one, like that Alta one suction of capital is just like it's like perpetual, and that is honestly way worse. Like I fully agree there. Like this all like not there's Cardano, there's all these other ones that like just already died and went off, like Neo and EOS that like just completely have faded now, and like they just sucked a ton of liquidity from their time out of the market. And like these Alta ones do suck a lot of liquidity out. Yeah, I definitely agree there.
Yeah, I think we're early in the cycle. I think we will see a lot of new things soon.
The one other thing I would say is like I do agree with Colin that like it did the sort of like the places that did embrace meme coins, everywhere that they embraced them, they did like at least do well. And I think there is part of like the culture of just like allowing, like part of censorship resistance is like these things exist anyway. There's no way to stop them anyway. So like they're going to take off. Like it's not like even if we don't like them, they won't exist. So it's like, and in a censorship resistant environment, they will exist. And for that reason, like, you know, we just have to make peace with it. And so like the places that didn't embrace it, whether it's L2s or like, you know, perp dexes or whatever that sort of embraces new activity and sort of like went along with the newer tokens and stuff. Because like a lot of people just want like leverage exposure, right? So they want to trade on perps. And so like a lot of perp dexes didn't list these meme coins. And the ones that didn't end up getting a lot of traction recently because you could trade ETH and BTC everywhere, but you can't trade like, you know, the newer meme coins all the time. So like that's part of the reason why a lot of these other newer perp dexes have gained traction. You know, synthetics actually has kept up really well. Like we have basically like all the main like meme coins or whatever listed. So like I think really and all the L2s like Base and stuff that sort of embrace the meme coin activity have benefited really well. So it's just like, you know, so it's realistically it's part of the game, and then like it is what it is, right? It's always going to exist. May as well benefit from a product perspective.
Exactly, and it's great to have this open free market. And I think there's nothing about embracing or that. Yeah, you just these chains that they're not allowing it are not like really blockchains, right? The blockchain is just like completely free market, and we just try a lot of different experiments, and that people do whatever they want to do. And if they want to do meme coins, they do meme coins, and if they want to do a new financial system, they do a new financial system, right? Let's do it. So I think that's next, probably. Yeah.
Man, I just think that the market caps are kind of huge. Let me try to.
Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, not even overthinking
Everything
it.
about meme coins is a mid.
But you understand, you don't really have to need to look at market caps. You just need to look at volume, right? But the volume is also pretty high. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, but Deo, I'm even more. I think like overwhelmed by the market caps, because like guys, look at even the smaller ones. Like I'm not even talking about Doge and Shiba. They're like surreal, but third is like Pepe with like over 3 billion, guys.
But what
Dog with
about
that,
Squid?
it's over 3.
The
Look how many like. It's insane.
Yeah.
Bonk getting close to 2 bill. Floppy.
I did not even look at the FTV of all these. There's a fully diluted valuation too. So I think if you toggle that on, like you can also see there. Some of these are even like the fully diluted is even higher than that. So it's pretty crazy.
Fully diluted. I don't even want to look, man. Like the fully diluted will be like
But you know what is funny? I actually in person have ran into people that like just have meme coins on centralized exchanges and they just leave it and they just forgotten about it from last cycle. I know I ran into people that bought shit, and I just couldn't believe that like these people like in 2021 they bought shit and they just kept it like all this time. They just like bought like $500 worth, like as if like they just threw away the money. That's how they look at it. Like some people just look at crypto as like it's throwing away money. So like to them it's like whatever they put there is gone forever. And so like they buy these meme coins and some of them like they don't even remember they have them. So like I think a lot of the supply and a lot of the market cap could be like it's like distributed into like these random places that are like almost not burned but like just almost forgotten about. And like that's like definitely like some of these really old tokens that like are still like that's definitely has to account for some of the XRP's market cap. Like I don't believe it. Like I'm sure like a bunch of like XRP's market cap is just inaccessible, like in a bunch of wallets dead, and like that's why it's sort of so high in market cap. Like I'm convinced of this. Like I don't know. Like leave me alone. But
I have a story about XRP. It's like the XRP is the ultimate meme coin. Actually, it got actually started in like by Roger Ver and a couple of other people that just made a coin for fun, and then it turned into something. And too many Japanese investors bought it, and they thought to make some technology around it, basically. Actually, and then XRP was born.
Wait a minute.
Insane.
Wait a minute. Deo, I don't know if I understood all the story there. But can
XRP is the biggest meme coin, actually, right? How XRP got started.
Can you maybe share for the audience, because I think that some people are not familiar with Roger Ver. Can you maybe share a few words?
It's a very long time ago, so I have to really look into the details. I'm not an expert, but I thought like maybe some other people know the details. But I have to look it up after the stream. Just look up like origins of XRP. It's hilarious.
Seriously, it started as a meme coin?
No, not really. But it was, in my opinion, like a Cardano or so, or something like that. Right? Something that was completely nothing, and it's still not really nothing. And then they started to give nothing to banks, so they kind of meme coined banks, right? And they said to banks like, if you use our maybe good technology, we will give you free meme coins, and then you cannot sell it and you need to shill it, right? Like basically, because these banks were doing partnerships with them, but it was not really real.
But theirs is like the ultimate, fake partnership thing, right? Like that's how they got started. Remember that meme?
Yeah, they were giving coins away for free.
People use Google Cloud, and they're like, "Yeah, we partner with Google."
Yeah, everyone.
It's called Open Labs. You need to go to Open Labs. Roger Ver. Let me check it out.
He wasn't Roger Ver. Chris Larson was kind of like one of the guys, but XRP Ripple started as something else before. Like it was a different.
It was Open Labs, San Francisco, and it was not. Yeah, it was like a weird thing. It was not really anything, and then suddenly they got a lot of traction, right? Because they say blockchain something, and then it was like, oh, let's take a look, right? So there's a lot of meme coins, especially in the IT, right? I think a lot of IT in general is like vaporware, and there's still a lot of that stuff has a lot of sales, right? So there's a lot of things that are good, but there's also a lot of things that are questionable, and people are just still trying to figure out where's the value layer, right? Like, so where's the money be made? Meme coins not, so that's a whole new phenomenon. Like, what do people literally buy stuff to hope it go up? Yeah, it's very crazy. But I think XRP it's kind of like it was not really a meme coin, but people don't understand it and then just like bought it because they thought it was like valuable.
Also, it's
because
so
banks
much,
use it.
I think it's so much about narrative. You know what I mean? Like, for example, a few years ago when I started with crypto and I started like telling my friend, like, I didn't know anything, but I was like, guys, you don't even know what's going on. And one of my friends he used to work in like aluminum, and he was working with some workers from Africa. And he told me that like with them, for example, like XRP they were extremely convinced that XRP is like the only thing that economy is going down, and the only thing that's going to save him is XRP.
You know what? That's what I mean. Like, I feel like there's this old narrative from people from like the old narrative that sort of like got sucked into XRP that probably holding it don't even remember they have it. It's like that's why I feel like a lot of the market cap of these different tokens is like in that like stuck in those situations. Whereas with like these other tokens, like especially with like the more active tokens like DeFi governance, like the purpose of holding a token, it requires you to be active in most cases. You have to vote, you have to do this and that, claim, stake, all these different these things, like these complex things. And like for that reason, it just like it requires the holders to be more active, and so you don't get that effect of like the people that buy it and just forget about it. Especially like these really inflationary tokens that require you locking and like sort of really like monitoring what's going on. It's like those like they sort of rule out the people that just buy it and forget it. And so like that's another advantage, like the liquidity advantage that sort of meme coins get. I won't even call it liquidity, just like dead liquidity advantage that these meme coins get by effect of the way they are. But like it's I don't know. Realistically, it just they're gonna exist forever, so it is what it is. But like for me, I just don't see. I don't know. I don't see definitely a lot of upside right now, anymore at this point in the cycle. But like there's always memes that like go from 0 to 100 like overnight, right? So it's like anything can happen, anything possible at any time.
I, for one, welcome and embrace our meme coin overlords.
Yeah. You're pragmatic.
Bitcoin is the ultimate meme coin.
You're just pragmatic.
Bitcoin is the ultimate meme coin.
And
I
waiting for the
actually
AI
back
meme
to
coin
it.
that
It's dead,
replicates
it's
itself.
over.
Self-replicating AI meme coins. That's what I want to see, right?
Actually, AI meme coins are like they're sort of they have their own wave too. There's like a ton of AI meme coins as well.
No,
So,
but
like,
I mean an
there's-
AI
everything's
that
a
makes
meme.
memes. An AI that makes memes and tries to tap into the current psyche and stuff. Like that is
There
going
was
to be
something
cool.
that did that.
How do we know that a lot of these tokens from Pump.fun or whatever that are generated aren't AI? Like, how do we even know that? They could be, but what if they
Maybe
are?
it's one AI that's doing it all, right? Maybe
By the
it's
way,
one
guys,
AI.
how legal is it to like issue a meme coin? Like to just go to pump.fun, issue whatever, like set it up for whatever, like.
That I don't know.
As your legal advisor and legal advisor to everybody listening here, it is
Well,
extremely legal, and you should all be doing
There's
DeFivisor,
stuff-
you just made a meme coin, Squid coin, right? Like I mean, it's kind of like a meme coin, right?
You're going to
So
jail,
Squidder
man.
points. Squidder points. Come.
Squid, and I think on fractioning you have squid, right? You have squid points that we can trade.
Yeah, squid. You're
I
right. But
actually
squid,
injected some
I
in,
think that squid is not
in the
exactly a
curve
meme
pool.
coin.
Speaking of points and memes,
It's
can
good.
somebody talk about restaking? I guess there was something that happened with points and tokens this week.
Yeah, I was just about to say that's perfect segue, Colin. There was like there's this Renzo, like this restaking protocol had this. I think that's like this is like the first like rug on a points program, right? Maybe not the first one. There's been a bunch, but like this is like the first main one.
Yeah.
And like they sort of rugged the community on the airdrop. Like it was covered pretty thoroughly by Sam on Leviathan. I recommend anyone that like wants to like see what happened, like just go back and read that.
Yeah, definitely recommend that episode by Sam. You're right, but go ahead, Millie. If you can also give your short introduction for the story, like at least the way you perceive it, if you want. And
okay, here's a recap because I caught up on it from that episode. So the recap from that episode is like something along the lines of Renzo, like they airdrop a very tiny portion of their airdrop to like everyone who's been farming the points. And like they sort of overrepresented it on this like really, really like shitty chart that sort of looked like the allocation was bigger than it was, and like they try to like basically it could be like false advertising, you could call it whatever. It's just like a pure rug, right? Like it was obvious. And so what happened was like people had started dumping this like restake token, which didn't have withdrawals enabled, and everyone started dumping this token, and it depegged. It depegged like by I think by 30-40%. and there were a bunch of people that were farming with this stake token on random lenders everywhere, like on I think on Morpho was one of the main ones, and also on Blast, and like they're just sort of looping this token and sort of leverage farming it, and when it depegged, like all the oracles also reported a depegging to some extent. So everybody on like most of the lenders, anyone who had leverage on this token was pretty much affected. Anyone like who had like significant leverage, actually, I should say. People with like moderate, very smaller amounts were probably okay, but anyone with like significant leverage sort of got wiped. And like Morpho, for example, sort of got rinsed. I think the worst, right? Like actually, I think Deo covered it. This topic, he probably knows it better than me, but yeah. So basically, like it was like a point bug that led to this depegging that led to a bunch of liquidations that sort of had all this bad press from this restaking protocol.
By the way, Colin, thanks for finding this tweet with the pick by Waz. That's what you meant, right?
There was an original version that was even worse, though.
Yeah, there was a.
Yeah, this is the
how?
This is the corrected version,
possible?
but it's
yeah. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, but they issued a retraction or something, so that they changed it. I guess I don't know, but I think it's a little bit irresponsible by releasing a token, don't have withdrawals enabled, and also not educating your community that you can go 10x long and actually rewarding them for that, right? So let's say I release something without a withdrawal flow, and I give you points to 10x it, right? Like that's a little bit like, I don't know, like they should have warned, like at least like, hey, we don't have withdrawals.
Man, look at this. Look at this. This is not good.
You need to see the original. See the original. Oh yeah, here we go.
yeah. Like look at this. Like come on. Like I can show it to like not that grown up children. I don't like that. Like this is the kind of stuff that I must say, like I don't really enjoy doing it, but I don't like this kind of stuff. Like, come on, guys, like create the chart proportionally. Like, you know how to build a protocol, so you know how to build a proportional pie chart, And I really think that this stuff like sometimes seems small, but like no, like people notice. Like people are not stupid, especially in our industry. People are smart and like I really recommend projects like I don't know. I'm kind of embarrassed by myself that I didn't like explore Renzo well enough to see it in advance and like to find that out myself, because like I don't know. I really don't like these kinds of that's misleading. By the way,
can I ask though, is there a consensus number of like what the airdrop should be for people that provided like assets into these LRTs? Like what's the right number? Is it 100%? Is it 10%?
Look at this one by a fifth. Good one.
Not 5% apparently.
It's funny.
Bigger, like,
but you know what's even funnier? Like you see this domino, but you can actually extend it, right? Because you have this. You can extend it with like the things that still need to be built, right? Like all the building LRT that actually entails quite a lot in the back end if you need to allocate to all these operators and stuff and the risk management of that. So there's a lot of things that none of them actually have built, right? So none of them actually built that. If you look into the code of Renzo, or you start looking into the code of EtherFi and stuff, like EtherFi has actually a lot more code because they did something in the beginning, but they just pivoted, right? And Renzo, just started from scratch, but they don't have that much yet. So yeah, I don't understand why people don't look more into the code what they really have before they start to like actually restake or do something.
You know what? I feel like a lot of the restaking is starting to go in the direction of just general staking. Like I think it's like going full loop. Like it's restaking, but really all it is just like you're depositing into a smart contract, like sort of like how we used to do with Master Chef, right?
No, that's not true, because there's a lot of different ways to allocate, like different risk factors and different withdrawal periods that are coming, right? Because all these AVSs will lock you in for a certain amount of time. So there's different like slashing algorithms, different reward schemes, right? And those are all coming very soon. But everybody's just basketing them indeed. But if you look in the backend, like deep enough into what's like coming, you can see that you do need to put in a lot of like separation between different like AVSs and things like that, where you will need to allocate in between, and you have to select node operators in a good way, right? So that is coming, and Google and Deutsche Telekom and other providers are operators there, right? So you can basically spin up infrastructure where you quite quickly host at those servers quite fast. So that's actually quite a nice feature to have as application builder, I think. Yeah.
So all
By
I
the way,
want to
yeah,
know,
that's true.
all I want to know, like, forget the technology. Can I stake my LRT into a re-staking protocol to get
Yes.
even more points?
Yes, and you can do that as well in a very crazy way. So that is actually going to come very soon, and you already see it happening. So you can restake your restake
Can you
token.
just
No
talk
way,
about
come
that?
on, guys, no way.
Yeah, it's
No way.
that is insane. So like I'm talking about some stuff that makes more sense, but the other stuff that makes but it's kind of isolated, right? So these things start to happen, and the yields are going to get insane, and then something is going to go wrong, and either that's going to happen soon or that's going to happen later, right? I don't know, but
Can you
Wait,
explain
okay,
that?
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that because I think there's a big question right now as to like how much the yield will be, like the actual not the airdrop like farming yield, but like the actual yield from like these AVS services. And I think it's good time to draw a distinction because there are restaking services that strictly require, like especially these AVS services that strictly require you to run a validator because as part of like your restaking commitments are to like do this sort of function as a validator and like fulfill it as a validator, like shared sequencing or whatever. But then there's this other like staking services, and correct me if I'm wrong, like is it Karat or what is it called? Carrot or whatever?
Yeah.
That's
There's something called Karak.
Okay,
Karak.
they're interesting dudes, right? They raised a 1 billion valuation. They raised over $40 million.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. That's interesting from quite big names, and then there's a lot of infrastructure around that, like Monad and all these things, right? They're all gonna kind of use restaking in a way, right? In order to do
Is
parallel
Monad going to use
execution.
restaking?
As far as I know, there is like this parallel VM thing I'm talking to next week, and they're doing something with AVS's restaking and connecting multiple parallel VMs and then syncing that state back to Ethereum. So it's like super fast. But I still need to learn more about it, what it does. So there's a lot of these things that are now being proposed, like very fast. So a lot of money is flowing in. But like the question is like, what is going to be built and where's the value capture? I think the value capture is actually going to lay at the application level more than at the chain level because of those innovations.
Can I bring us
Probably.
full circle and ask if it's possible to have Uniswap on an AVS so that I can have meme coins on that AVS?
Yeah. So basically what's going to happen, like you can actually enter the chain with your own chain, right? So I can make my own chain with my own page rank that interacts with other chains like really quickly, basically. So yeah, that is potentially going to happen. If you look at Frax, for example, I really like Frax, right? Their new page rank. So I would just go to Frax, and if you actually use Fraxel right now, you get like points. It's really cool, and you can like you can use that, and you can actually very easily interact with that. So like if you hypothecate that further, that's going to be very interesting for your usage and your footprint on chain, how you can make money with that. Yeah.
Well, what are the main AVS services, right? Like what are they? I think the main one is pre-confirmations and then shared sequencing.
Well, EigenDA right now. EigenDA right now.
And DA, right? So are those the top three?
Yeah.
So
right now there's like a couple of like categories. Like next week we're gonna release an article on that. So I'm actually working today. I was working on an article together with the YieldNest risk team, is operated by Llama Risk. That is going to be released next week, and we're going to categorize all these different use cases that AVS can potentially give, right? And then also make an AVS risk framework, and starting with EigenDA, kind of showing what is the risks involved in using that product and what it still needs to improve in order to make that better. So I think like these things will be figured out either by EigenLayer or something else, and you can there's a whole new yield possibilities, right? That can be explored. Very interesting, but still a lot of work to do.
Outside of those three,
like other proof systems.
Outside the top three, like DA, shared sequencing / proposing, and what's the last one?
I will publish an article next week. I will share with you as well. Like that, there I have more.
Are there many more like other than those?
Yeah, well, it's the way you categorize it, right? Like data availability of instant dispute resolutions, or like shared sequencing, AI interfaces. AI. Like you have a lot of different things you can potentially do with it, and that's now being explored, right?
But like some of those don't really require like active validators like running on like a particular chain, right? Like some of them like the DA does, like shared sequencing does, because it's part of like the validator, like sort of the commitments of the proposed commitments of like the layer one. They're sort of like introducing trying to introduce the shared sequencing, and then pre-confirmations as well. But like something like thing doesn't. What was the one you just mentioned? Sorry, I blanked out.
An AI interface, for example, like, or some.
Does that require
more...
like a Ethereum
well,
validator?
You can get a node operator set like very quickly, right? So you can very quickly get a node operator set where they can basically easily earn money, right? In order to rent your compute or rent something of a computer in some sort of jurisdiction. There is like ways to geographically locate at AVS that you can say like, okay, I want to start my AVS with just servers from the US or EU, bare metal with these requirements, right? You can like require that. So these things are quite cool, but you can do that with it and then build applications around that. Yeah. But how much money is that gonna give? Like, I don't know. That needs to be figured out, right?
I think they're all going to work very well, and we're all going to win.
So
we're all gonna make it. Yeah.
You mentioned a character who did like that big raise or whatever, right? Like, why do you think it would be useful to use like various random tokens to like restake for other chains? Like, is that like the value proposition of
well, that is going very deep down the risk curve. That I cannot tell you, but at a high level, that it makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, I do think it makes a bit of sense to restake, right? Like restake is basically an evolution of merge mining, right? Like Satoshi Nakamoto even talked about like merge mining is pretty cool if you can do it, right? But on Bitcoin, you have like nothing at stake. And with restaking, you can restake with that because you can have something at stake. You can solve that problem, kinda, right? But like, how much sense does it still make? Well, there's a couple of use cases and they're not being explored, but it's still a lot of work to do, right? In my opinion, but we're definitely going into a good direction.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. And Colin had to drop off. Thanks for.
Yeah, Colin's like actually busy, guys. Like, come on, like. He's actually working on stuff, you know.
Yeah, let's go. I was talking too long. Sorry, Colin. I will send you. Let's share the article, and we're all gonna make it. I heard him leave when he said we're all gonna make it, and I think he left very bravely after that. I think.
He knew when to pull out, you know. By the way, I want to like get back to for just like a minute to the Renzo issue. I talked to someone earlier, and he told me that there were like 2 signs in advance, at least, that people could have seen. One was like the pie chart that we like talked about, and like, okay, let's get real. And he also told me like about the fact that that actually there weren't any withdrawals possible, right?
Yeah, so like, withdrawals were disabled.
Yeah. Is that like common on like LRTs, or is Renzo like the only one that had this kind of structure?
No, in order to actually spin off validators, you need to verify them, right? So it's a bit more complex than just LSDs, right? So because you need to do a bit more stuff with it, and that costs some gas. And I think that, and also reverting that also has the same issue, that it's a bit more. It's not as straightforward, but it's relatively quite simple. If you already done it one way, you can easily do it the other, right? But still, they didn't do it, so they didn't activate withdrawals, which is weird. Yeah, why would you not activate withdrawals when you do TGE? It's like, yeah, it's kind of normal. I understand that they not have withdrawals from the start because you of course need to initiate the protocol. Like that takes maybe some time, but they already had over $2 billion in there, right? So then you should be able to activate withdrawals, right? I don't get why they would.
You'd be surprised how many teams go to market with like without proper planning, and like it's so common that like the teams like crap out, and like they should have been. This is why it's good to have sort of some semblance of a community and like them weighing in on some of these things, because when you get feedback from them, you would know pretty quickly that like, first of all, this like doing it without withdrawals would be a terrible idea. right? Like going to market without withdrawals. And then second, like knowing like what kind of backlash you're gonna get from that airdrop, right? Like and approaching that very carefully because like you're gonna give this very small airdrop. You definitely better be careful on how you go to market with it. So like there's like not a lot of strategy and planning about a lot of these things. Like some of them, like they just get so much capital really quickly and they just forget, right? How like delicate that is and how quickly it can leave and how quickly things can go south too, right? Like how risky everything is. So like it's a lot of bad press for Renzo. I don't know, like it's not really great in any sense, right? So I don't know. It's interesting though.
I'm quite curious what they've been working on, right? Because they put $2 billion in the contracts. They were around for quite some time, but what did they build like tech wise? Like I don't know. It's a bit fake, but I hope they release something at some point. But I don't know what they have some strategy manager as well, but it seems not to be completely finished. Well, yeah. Let's see.
I think the interesting thing is one thing that's interesting here is that like Aave, for example, has this approach where they hard code staked ETH to ETH, and I guess like this is sort of like they see this as vindication. It's sort of like part of the reason why they do that is because like you get this depegging, but it's not really depegged because like the asset hasn't really sort of like the ETH is still there technically. Like it's not like anybody rugged the ETH from Renzo. So like I guess like that sort of like justifies a bit of like why Aave approaches it that way. I'm pretty critical of that approach, to be honest, because you can't ever know if Renzo did rug the ETH or not. And imagine they did rug the ETH, then like the collateral would just like it would just sit there as like one for one, right? On Aave. So like I think
you can exactly make proofs of how much ETH you have, right? So that's why you need to register every validator with like a ZK proof, and then you basically can say that okay, I have all the validators with like one signature, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And so I think there's interesting ways to go about it. It's interesting to see the landscape play out. Like I guess this was like the first, like everyone who talked about like there's gonna be over leveraging with all these LRTs. I guess this was sort of like the first taste of it, like what we see how it could play out, like and where things could go wrong. So like hopefully other teams like sort of see this and learn from it and they move on. But there's some interesting news that just came. Breaking news: Consensus sues the SEC.
Now, like breaking news, right now.
Right now, just happened.
We had the same thing last week. You remember? That's so cool. Let's let's go there. Can you find the link?
What did it say? It's let me drop the link here. It's from Zoomer. I don't have the official link.
Send me something in the private chat. I will share it. Because
it's not
and just before we go, I will only add one thing about the Renzo and the LRT stuff. I think that a lot of like at least one thing that like in a way caused it, I think, was the incredible hype around LRTs. And I really think that some teams tried to like, they just tried to like go as fast as they can because the hype was already there and they didn't want to like miss the boat and be too late. And I think that sometimes it can be
their hand.
Yeah, they definitely it can be the wrong decision. And by the way, I think that on that front, at least, I will have to say, and again, non-financial advice, and do your own research, guys. But I think that the approach that you guys at Yield Nest there took, at least from the outside, to me personally, it seemed different. And like I really think that there was such a huge race for the hype. There were like 3 or 4 weeks that all the timeline was all about LRTs, and there was like, okay, a new project, another new project. And I'm like, okay, I've never like how did this happen like so quickly and stuff. But just guys, invest wisely and like really read into the docs, look for these hints. For example, again, I really I'm telling myself I should have found it myself. Like I should have found that pie chart myself. Okay, Millie, let's go to the
DeFi advisors giving financial advice here on Leviathan. I think your name's gonna get. Hopefully, it doesn't get you into trouble giving advice out as a DeFi advisor. Giving financial advice.
I have the double O, Millie. I have the double O. Like they know I'm not really giving advice.
The advisor.
Okay, so let me share it on screen just a second. Apologize, guys. Apologize.
Yeah, but thank you, DeFi advisor. No, it was a long road, but I think it's easier to build LRTs than NLRTs, like restaking validators, and doing that's a bit harder, but it's better. And we also have a withdrawals we're working on for some time now with Wavy as well from Jörn.
Wow.
So he's helping on the back end, and so
wow.
we're building on it together.
Wavy is great. Wavy from
Yeah,
Jörn,
Friday.
in my opinion, one of the greatest in the space. I really like that guy.
Yeah, amazing. And tomorrow we have a spaces where we're just gonna talk about DeFi and stuff like that.
Cool.
Let's see where Nugget King and Wavy. So we're gonna talk about DeFi and yieldness and restaking, and let's see where the conversation goes. It'll be funny, and so it's gonna be fun. Oh, what is this on screen?
Cool. Actually, we'll let's try to drop the link later. Maybe if you can, even if you already have the link, maybe you can drop it in the comments there or something like that. I do want to address like what Millie was sharing with us. Breaking news, folks. Consensus is suing the SEC, saying that it's seeking to declare ETH a security. But didn't they already say that like the CFTC or whatever it's called has decided that it's a commodity?
Yeah, I mean, like, it looks like there's some kind of interagency war going on, right? And like Consensus coming here to sort of like flame the fire and sort of like fan the flames and like ignite the fire even more. And sort of, I think, realistically, I don't know how much teeth this has at all. I'll be honest, like, and I'm no lawyer, but like I'm just like looking at this, and I think like there probably isn't much teeth to this suit much at all. Like realistically, like I don't know what they plan to get, but I feel like they're trying to light a fire under SEC's ass and sort of like use up their resources so they can't just keep suing everybody in the industry. So I think that's a good tactic. That's probably like a sound tactic to sort of.
It's like a counterattack, no? It's like let's sue them before they tell us that MetaMask is a broker exchange or whatever.
Exactly, like tie up their resources, because I think the industry as a whole, right, has a lot of funding, and so like like if they could afford to take this legal action preemptively and like they sort of just do like tie up SEC in court, it makes it difficult for them because they have finite resources and they have to go beg the government for money, whereas like all these like the whole industry has a ton of funding like at its disposal to sort of combat and like launch like a counterattack. So like I think it makes sense in that sense, but I don't know how much teeth this has. Probably not a lot, but it's interesting that like it's interesting that it's actually devolving into this. Like this is where it's going. Like it looks like the SEC is trying to basically attack everything but Bitcoin, and so it's going to be it's just interesting that the industry has gone this direction.
Do you guys have any like any kind of assumption on like why specifically is the SEC doing it? Like, what's
interesting.
Well, end game. What is there to really benefit? Like, who's actually trying to benefit to gain what? I'm very curious about it, but like, I'm not really understanding. Like, what's the big picture here?
So I think what I think they're on a broad level, on like a really high level. It probably doesn't matter who is in office. I think the administration and like on probably both sides actually. Like I think the Republicans seem like they're very friendly with the crypto industry, but like before Donald Trump got lost the election in like before he lost office right in 2020, and right at the end they tried to pass this crazy bill that sort of did the same thing. Tried to declare wallets like brokers, basically the same idea, right? They started to apply some sort of like AML restrictions onto wallets, and so like we've seen this from both sides of the aisle that they're kind of. There is like this sort of like they see the industry as a threat, and so like the growth here is threatening to them, and so they want to slow it down and like take control, because this is how like governments look at these kind of things. They don't want it to just run wild without their influence. Like this is just the view of like most governments around the world, and so fundamentally, I think from that perspective, like most governments are going to be at least somewhat adversarial to this, in some sense, especially like a major economy like the US, because they have a lot to lose because they're like the biggest economy, right? They have the biggest financial system. They have the world reserve currency. So like anything that starts to, chip away at that or at that narrative, or sort of like even looks threatening from long distance, that to them is sort of like something to pay interest to and try to like control it. And so like it's just natural that it's happening this way. But like what I'll say is like what's interesting about Gary is like Gary Gensler was he was like this guy that was giving lectures about like blockchain and stuff at at universities and shit, right? Or like at MIT, who's giving courses. And so like what's funny there is that like you can see him in his interview in his lectures from that are on YouTube, like he's praising blockchains at that time. So like I don't know, something happened in between there where I think maybe the ICO mania, or I don't know what happened that made this guy like sort of completely do a full pivot and like hate crypto. But like he used to like, you know, he's on record saying like in his lectures that he doesn't think, or like that the government has declared that ETH, or I believe, I'm sorry, the former SEC chair at that time when he wasn't an SEC chair and he was just doing these lectures, sort of said that ETH isn't a security and that Litecoin isn't a security and that Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash or whatever, and these aren't securities. So like he's on camera saying that. And so like, you know, somewhere along the lines, he did this huge pivot. But I feel like it has to do with his job. Like he's just like a lawyer, like a mercenary suit, and sort of the government, you know, has this sort of, especially the Democrats, they have this like really hostile view towards crypto, and so he had to fit that role, and so he pivoted to like fit this role. Like at least that's the only like thing I could think of. And so, you know, him being a mercenary suit, he's just doing what the government sort of wanted him to do. And I feel like at a high level, like for the most part, even if the administration would change, it might seem maybe for some tokens it might be a good thing. Like maybe now that Trump has gotten a little bit of taste of like NFTs and all that, and sort of on crypto a bit, maybe his perspective has changed, and so like maybe the Republicans would be a little bit more lenient now. But I think overall, at like a high level, like it'll be pretty much the same sort of you know, hostility, at least for like until they feel like they've comfortably like integrated it, right? Because like that's the way the governments are gonna look at it. And so it's basically up to the industry to sort of constantly, you know, persevere despite all this kind of these hostilities. And it's not gonna be easy always. As we see, like, you know, the SEC sort of sued Uniswap, and there's sort of, you know, they've done a lot, and not just SEC, like even other branches of government, but like, you know, that's basically, and the SEC right now seems to be like the main sort of threat actor. And it's interesting because the CFTC, on the other hand, is sort of in like a turf war with them, because like they think like ETH is already a commodity because there's a futures market for it. There's on the commodities exchange. So like, there's only futures market for commodities, like the ETH futures and the Bitcoin futures. They only have that because they're supposed to be commodities. And so like the CFTC sees that as like sort of like legal precedent that ETH is a commodity. And so like there's a bit of a turf war going on. And I think what Consensus is trying to do here is sort of light a fire here and like basically, you know, add flame to the fire and sort of fan the flame or whatever. I'm messing up my
I will also just add that, you know, like, again, these are only my assumptions, but like for Consensus, like it can't be good for Consensus if ETH is like declared a security, right? It's like very bad for these guys, especially because like like when I think of Consensus, I think like about ETH, I think MetaMask, I think ETH addresses and all that stuff. And I'm trying to like think like who actually has the interest to make ETH consider the security. Like who has the most to benefit if ETH is declared a security? You have any thoughts on that, maybe, Deo? Because and also if you want to like address the subject yourself, man, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know what to say about that. But yeah, security. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think even Bitcoin are just commodities, right? They're not. We'll not be able to stop that either this year or next year. It's gonna be commodity, right? Just like Bitcoin. I think that's just my opinion. Maybe not now this time, but maybe in 2025 they're definitely gonna do something like.
Are these? I have another assumption. Maybe now when I hear what you say, Deo, could it be that it's like some entities that are interested are just trying to stall whatever is going to happen with ETH and its price in order to accumulate more ETH, that once it is declared like a commodity and we do have an ETH ETF, they are much better prepared for it?
Honestly, like
that's also that's a good prediction. I think that's
how I actually think,
happen, right? Yeah, no, but could happen. Why not? Everything is possible, but I think it's a small chance. But let's see.
I think you know what's possible is it, like, realistically, maybe not in a meme way, but like in a realistic way, like I think like I mentioned, like the governments probably would they want to like slow it down. So even if they don't want to like maybe buy up all the ETH, they want to slow it down until they have at least some control, and maybe some control includes having some like their friendly banks owning stakes in it, right? Like maybe that's what they want. Like we never know, right? What really is going on behind the curtain, but like I think definitely, if not like wanting to accumulate a ton, they definitely wanted to slow it down, particularly ETH in general, because it's probably the most censorship resistant, but probably all other chains as well, and just like slow it down so it can't grow too big without their influence. So I think in some sense there's a lot of truth there.
I really understand your perspective there, and again, I think it's a very good like assumption. Although I will say that as time goes by, I'm thinking more and more that the government, and by the way, this is even more like it touches the point that, like you said earlier, that it doesn't really matter who rules, because, and that's why I'm not really sure that this is actually something that's originating from like the government's desire. I think it's much more about like everything in the world. It's about lobbyists. It's about who has the most to benefit and why. And I think that often the way things are presented and are trying to be perceived, to be presented to others so they perceive it in a specific way is very often the original intent is kind of obvious. And at least when I try thinking about these kinds of things with my pretty mid-curve mind on it, I'm like, okay, who actually has a lot to benefit if this happens? And then I tell myself, okay, you're right. Like the ETH will probably actually be a commodity, but maybe someone has a lot to benefit if it only happens next year and not now. You know what I mean? And that's my main point here, because and by the way, I think the same way was true with BTC. Like, for example, couldn't we have an a BTC ETF like years ago? But it was like the main players were like, why would Grayscale enjoy all the profits and like hold all the BTC in the TradFi world when the actual big players want to like control the game? You know what I mean? So I actually think that it's more of what lobbyists want than the government itself. Go ahead, Millie.
I was just gonna say, in the chat they're saying that this is turning into conspiracy hour, but like I think, if I really put my conspiracy hat on, I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that there are incumbents that are threatened by the industry, right? Like the incumbent financials, specifically banks, and a lot of like fintech and mostly like just the major institutions, they do see a glimpse of like a threat here from a distance, right? Like they see a movement here that's sort of forming without any control, and like the fact that it's organizing without any like sort of oversight is threatening to them, and to them that is like something to watch out for. So 100% I think there's some truth there that like there are people that benefit from like delaying any progress until they have like some edge here. And like I think the interesting thing is that like you'll notice realistically, any place that's sort of really friendly towards crypto is usually places where like they don't have they don't have a lot of incumbent institutions that sort of benefit insanely from like their status quo, right? And so like if you look at Dubai, for example, it's sort of become a hotbed for cryptos because their economy doesn't rely like heavily on being some like being like a reserve currency or like having sort of foreign investment in their economy, and so like they take advantage of crypto as that sort of channel. So it's like it's interesting in that sense.
Interesting stuff, honestly. Like will be interesting to see how this develops, and honestly interesting to also like think about the specific tactic of that consensus is taking here, kind of a proactive approach, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
To go for it, like to not wait to I don't know how to say it exactly, like to give the first punch, or however to throw the first punch, they say.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, the consensus is going to, like, for them, it's a strategy. I think, like I said, it's trying to wear down the SEC with these kind of suits, tie up the resources. So I think realistically, it's a sound strategy. And I think what's interesting, if you recall, we talked about the Uniswap lawsuit last week or whatever, and we mentioned it there too. Like, after Hayden was, after Uniswap got sued by the SEC, Hayden seemed like he had this, like, a relief to him. Like, he's been dreading this for a long time. So I think also the SEC, like, doesn't have as much teeth as people think. Like, their bark is probably louder than their bite. Coinbase has been, like, fighting them forever. Like, if you remember, like, when they got sued by the SEC, their suit was sort of like the bottom of the stock. Like, stock has been up only since then. So, like, if you just if you zoom out, you see, like, all of these, like, sort of regulatory actions, they're just, like, part of a bigger picture. And, for the most part, they can only slow down the movement. They can't really, like, stop it, I don't think. But, it just it's always like the SEC is definitely overreaching. But there's always going to be some agency that this is going to be, like, bringing some action or doing something, or sort of being somewhat anti-crypto. I think that stance we'll see that, presume for, like, for the foreseeable future from, towards crypto. There's always going to be some hostility there.
Yeah,
At least that's what I say. That's my hot take.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree. You know what it kind of reminds me, Millie? Like, it's like when we see all the governance stuff going on in DeFi, and how, like, different entities are trying to, like, take over different projects, ecosystem, and all that. This is just like a tiny microcosmos of the real like governance battle, which is like stuff like we were just talking, like the real world. You know what I mean? Consensus, SEC, government, whatever. Like, there's levels to this game, and, like, circles of governance in a way. But
And in a
I
sense,
think it's fascinating.
In a sense, I'm surprised, because this is, like, we've seen something like a move from consensus so late in the game, right? Because Coinbase has been very active on this front. Like, consensus has a lot to lose here, and, like, they've been very active. Like, they brought, like, the amicus brief at the time when the Tornado Cash sanctions first came. They brought, like, the amicus brief. They sort of spearheaded that. They've sort of been very active on legal front. A couple other, like, a lot of other players also have been very active, but, like, consensus hasn't really done this. So this is the first time we're seeing them actually make a move, which is, I feel like it's kind of a long time coming, but I wonder what it means, right? Like, there could be broader implications, but for now, to me, it feels like they're tying up resources, but maybe, like, they're just they're trying to do something before, like, the SEC sues them or something. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they have, like, info that the SEC is going to do something. That's first of all. And by the way, maybe they have, like, a specific release or an announcement that they.
Okay. Sorry. I missed this. There's a comment in the chat that said they're also going after MetaMask, and it looks like there's another breaking news. Like, they also received a Wells notice for MetaMask and MetaMask Swap. MetaMask Swap and MetaMask staking. Here, let me drop the link here. So they recently dropped this launch a staking service, which allows you to, like, run a validator right from your MetaMask wallet, where you deposit 32 ETH and you run a validator. And it looks like they're going after that and the swap feature.
Let me pull it up just a second. Breaking news is the best, huh?
This is crazy.
Nothing like getting breaking news on a live stream. It really is fun. Consensus also received Wells notice regarding MetaMask swap and staking. Wow. Yeah. So they didn't really throw the first punch. They're reacting.
It was reactive, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, I think the strategy.
And the SEC is going all over the place. Okay, this changes the subject a bit. Like, the SEC is like, okay.
So I think the strategy is still to, like, basically tie up the resources. But I think someone in the comments just saying that the SEC has now trained its sites on consensus and MetaMask wallet software. The SEC claims that by offering this wallet software, consensus acts as a broker and offers and sells securities. So, like, they did the same thing to Uniswap and to Coinbase too. The same exact sort of action. They try to claim that the Coinbase wallet and the Uniswap wallet are also I guess dealer brokers legally. And so, like, they just lost that case against Coinbase recently, And like Hayden Adams on a recent interview was saying that, you know, they lost in like the earliest part stages of the lawsuit as well. So like I guess the Uniswap seems rather confident that they'll win. So I guess they're trying to bring the same action against you know, as the consensus now, and it could be part like a political like thing, like, you know, it's election year. They're trying to say they were really hard on crypto. It could be like a very much like a political thing. They're trying to like make it political because they also, you know, they sentence SPF, they sentence CZ. They're trying to send a message right before like Biden goes on the campaign trail. So like it might be that, you know, it could be a political movement, like a motive that like they know they might not win the case, but they're just doing it just to score political points. So who knows? Realistically, it's just such a deep rabbit hole with these guys. But I think in the long term, I don't think any of it really matters. They're not going to stop like wallets from existing. Like that's my view. Like I can't believe like it's possible to stop wallets from like making their way to people, like for them to download like a simple wallet. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious about what they're actually going for. Like, you know, sometimes you actually reach for something, but your actual goal is something else. You know. So I wonder, like, I kind of wonder what they're like. What's the actual game here? Like, what's being played? Either way, honestly, Millie, anything else specific that you want to maybe add or something?
No, I think I talked a lot.
We all did.
I think I said everything that had to be said. We also had Amadeo drop off. Thanks to Amadeo for joining as well.
Yeah, it was great to have this one with Colin and Deo, for example. And of course, with you, man, quite an honor to have this third one with you. Show is kind of starting to roll. And I think that if we keep do it consistently enough, it's gonna with time have more structure, I think, hopefully. And also like it's starting to have its own like vibe. And I really enjoy it, man. Honestly, it's one of my favorite streams of the week for sure. And thank you so much. Really love your takes. You know that as always. By the way, Millie, feel free to you write so many takes. So if at some point you want to have like a segment where you present like a few of your takes, maybe of the week, like one, whatever, also feel free. I think it can be fun for a lot of the viewers that are not necessarily following X as often. And guys, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Feel free to look for us in the in all our chat, like TG, X, wherever. I'm DeFi Advisor. This is Millie, Llama on the Brink, and we're about the news. And thank you guys for tuning in. Come talk to us, be active, try to earn some squid points. We will also have this episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts hopefully later, and of course on pods.media, where you can also mint our episodes over there for something like a few dollars. I'm not sure exactly what's the price. It should be something like 0.002 ETH, I think, something like that. And that's also actually a way for you guys to earn some squid points without actively participating in Leviathan and contributing with stuff like broadcasts or headlines or sidewalks like edits or whatever. And if you do want to be active, then for sure reach out to either myself or Garrett Curvecap or Sam, and let's get you involved. And have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thank you, Millie. Really enjoyed it, man.
Thank you. Peace.
Bye.